What's up, guys? This is the PokerCraft podcast on Live at the Bike. I am your host, D22-soso, Wayne Chiang, and this guy is Aaron Ho, who's played on Live at the Bike a couple times in the Hollywood Writers game. So your background was you were the Poker Society president at UC San Diego.
That's correct. Thank you for saying it correctly. Not the Poker Club, Poker Society, because we were high class gentlemen.
I apologize. I know me and Maria Ho and some of her roommates went to one of them. She may have attended more. I only attended one.
And you immediately saw that the competition was so fierce that you had to run away.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was.
We were playing real high stakes back then. We were running $10 multi-table tournaments 2 or 3 times a week in the on-campus apartments over at UC San Diego, with the occasional high roller $100 buy-in on maybe once or twice a month. At the same time, for us as college kids, man, that was big money. Like that was a big deal.
I'm not gonna throw shade. I'm just kidding. I'm older than you, so I had a head start. We'll just leave it at
that. Fair.
What year was this? Because I'll know exactly what I was playing depending on the year.
So let's see. I was at UCSD from 2002 to 2006, and I want to say we started it right at the end of my freshman year. So I guess like spring quarter of 2003, or it could have been the winter quarter. I can't remember exactly, but we basically, my freshman year, I started playing in some just random home games, like really, really like super low stakes, literally playing for like, nickels and dimes with some friends. And it was like, for a while, it was like once a week with just like, 8 or 9 of us. And we just had the thought like, man, I think there's a demand for this. What if we made it like an official club? So we, like everyone else, we registered with the school. We went out and we started to like, we'd sit out in the quad with a table set up, us right next to the like Bible study table that we're trying to recruit people for that. But instead we were there saying like, come gamble with us. It's going to be fun. And we would sign up people. And I want to say within like 1 or 2 months time, we went from the 9 of us playing to having like 300 members.
Wow.
And we made it super professional. I think that was like the thing that really set us apart. Everyone else had been playing on just like their crappy wooden table with a bicycle deck. And we said, no, let's invest and get some poker tabletops and chem decks and dealer buttons and, like decent quality poker chips, not like the plastic ones you get at Ralph's. And we just started running tournaments. And at first we could fit 1 or 2 tables inside one person's apartment, but then we'd get 3, 4, 5, 6 tables. And we'd have to basically find people that lived in adjacent apartments so that everyone could sort of be in the same area. And, we try and designate at least one of the founding members. There was, 3 or 4 of us that started it to be like the tournament director, and would run around and handle all the buy-ins. And I gotta say, it was like one of the things I'm most proud of, like while I was there. It felt like it was running a business in a way. And we did it very professionally. And we did it all throughout like what was left of my freshman year, all of my sophomore year, and then up until right at the beginning of junior year. But eventually the school caught wind that there was gambling happening on campus, and
skill game.
Yeah, well, that was our argument. We were like, this is like the chess club. It's a skill game. We're not gambling. Yeah. We were trying to, pose it as like, you wouldn't shut down the chess club, right? And of course they did not buy that argument. And we hired and consulted lawyers and tried to like appeal to the school board. And we really like tried to put up a fight to keep it going. And they eventually just kind of stalled us until we kind of just gave up. And we just sort of, it eventually sort of dissolved. I mean, I still kept in touch with a lot of the members, and we would have the occasional game off campus. But while it was running, it was insanely popular. I mean, this was, right around height of the poker boom, right? Moneymaker effect. That's 2003 World Series, right?
Yeah.
And party poker and all that, like that. This is when it was all happening, and everyone was talking about it and thinking about it. And I remember one of the greatest things was one of our friends was like a computer science major, and he like built out our Poker Society website with like a ranking system. You could see who, like,
Nice.
we had like leaderboards where you could see who was like the money leader for that quarter. You know, who was the money leader, the point leader. We had like a tournament of champions. We got the
I
AHAS.
remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, the local Indian casino down in San
Yep.
Diego, the
Yep.
AHAS, sponsored us and would host our like spring poker classic, like our championship tournament for the end
I
of
remember that too.
each quarter. Yeah. We like would go to the local mall and get a customized like championship bracelet, gold, like not real gold, obviously. Probably cost $50. An engraved bracelet that said like UCSD Poker Society Spring Poker Classic Champion. But like I gotta say, it was, for me, it gave me like an identity in college, because I didn't really get involved into frats or any of that other stuff. There wasn't much else going on campus that really spoke to me. And so I felt like I just created my own club, my own fraternity. And, you know, I felt like it attracted people from all walks of life, you know, just because it's poker, it was probably 95% guys, but like, you know, people of all backgrounds, people who were undergrads or grad students. I wouldn't be surprised if we had some players who were not even affiliated with the school at all. They just heard of the games,
Yeah.
and they would come by and play in the games. And yeah, it's, for me, it's something that's definitely like defined who I am. And the people I started with are still good friends. One of them is one of the groomsmen in my upcoming wedding. Like, we stay really close.
So we'll get to your marriage thing in a bit, but I'm sorry you're getting married. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. We have to do that. Yeah, but you want to shout out your other co-founders or?
Sure. I mean, so like the main people that were really involved with it were this one guy named Gerald Fu, who he was one of us who had the first big online poker tournament win out of all of us. Like, because at the time we were all still playing low stakes. Like, our main game was like 8-16 limit hold'em, and I think it was our sophomore. Yeah, at the AHAS. Yep. That was a juicy game, and I think our sophomore year, he was able to final table one of those like Sunday party poker tournaments, like, you know, satellited his way into the $600 and something buy-in, ended up getting 5th place and getting like $50K.
Oh, wow.
For us, what, you know, when you're 19 years old, it's like,
it's still
an
insane.
It's an insane amount of money, and we were crazy excited for him. So shout out to Gerald, and
shout out Gerald.
He's the one who's going to be a groomsman in my wedding. We're still really tight. And then 2 of the other founding members, this guy named Spencer Westcott, who was a good guy and a very solid, tight, aggressive ABC poker player. Definitely, you know, was a respectable player. Let's see, Mike Murdoch. And then the person who's most notable is Steve Sung, who we know. You know, he's been on your show, and like, who would have thought at the time that he would go on to make many final tables and win WSOP bracelets and have millions and millions of dollars in poker tournament winnings. You know, at the time, I knew he had the passion for the game, and he was like a quick study. He would learn, you know, it's not like he only played Hold'em. He knew all the games. He was the one who like pushed me to stop being a nit. Like, I remember I was just trying to learn and playing like 3-6 limit Hold'em at the AHAS. And he was like, what are you doing? Come to the 8-16. Trust me, you'll have a better time. And so for me, I was like, jumping from 3-6 to 8-16 at the time felt like a big jump, right?
Yeah.
And I immediately realized, like, oh, the players at 8-16 are actually worse and a lot more profitable and a lot looser. And so I remember just kind of like starting to just always play with him at the 8-16 and picking up on his style and aggressiveness. He was the one who was like, you know, you just gotta create your own rush. You know what I mean? If the rush isn't coming, you just gotta create your own rush. And
I know him.
yeah, and just watching him excel in those games, and just seeing how much his poker career has taken off has been a really interesting sight to see. And I catch up with them here and there, usually in the summers in Vegas during WSOP time. I'll always hang out with him and we'll catch up. But every once in a while, if like, we're both down in playing tournaments in LA or something, we might hang out or something like that. Yeah.
No, I definitely remember him. So timeline wise, I stopped playing live just as you guys were getting into it. And I was 16 tabling party poker, 1530 limit. So timeline wise, I started so whatever, I was a professional gamer, and then when I went to UCSD, I'm like, okay, I gotta find a way to pay for school. Actually, my parents were willing to pay, but my dad tilted and just like yelled at me for buying pizza. I'm like, fuck this, so I had to try to make my own money. I drew comics for the UCSD Guardian.
Really?
It paid $9.80 an hour.
Solid. It's a good hustle.
That's not going to pay for tuition. If you remember the Ralphs at La Jolla, the sandwich price went up from $4.99 to $5.99 to $6.99, like right in front, like year after year. You don't remember this?
I mean, it sounds familiar, but I was still trying to just use my campus cafeteria money to get all my meals, or convince those that still had money left on theirs to buy me free meals. I feel like I had a good network of people that could help.
No, I sound like the spoiled kid.
No. But it's interesting. It's like, because for me, poker also gave me a bit of that financial freedom, because I hit a point where like I was studying like filmmaking and screenwriting, which was something that my parents weren't completely thrilled about. Like they would have rather I've been doing something a little more traditional, as most Asian parents do, as you would know. And so I always felt kind of, I don't know, conflicted about taking their money to go to study something in college that they thought was kind of a waste. And I felt like I was obligated to like sort of take their, I don't know, when they'd say like, you should consider law school, or you should do this, or why don't you switch majors? I felt like I had to at least entertain it because they were paying for my schooling. So eventually, once poker came along and I got to the point where I was making decent money, I was able to kind of say to them, I was like, you know what, you can stop sending checks. Like, not to be spoiled as well, because I mean, love them, love my parents. I'm grateful for, everything they've given me and the opportunity. But it got to a point where I felt like it'd be better if I can just pay my own way, and then I can feel really good about studying the thing that I really want to study. And so I was able to just basically at some point in my sophomore year, just be able to say like, you can stop sending me checks. I'm just going to pay for my college from here on out. And I was able to do that, thankfully, because of poker. And, at the time it was just like printing money. I mean, I was just like, I was doing well at the, live cash games, but really it was like online on party poker. You didn't even have to play big. I was just like multi-tabling $30 and $50 sit and goes, and multi-tabling 3, 6, and 5, 10 limit hold'em, and making a killing, just because the games were so soft back then.
Yeah,
it was wild.
You just have to withstand a lot. So let's see. What happened was like I started live 3-6 Verona, then we went all the way up to 8-16 Viejas, and one day Viejas actually ran 15-30 limit, and I got buried that day. But whatever. And then basically I started with Paradise Poker, only won a few $100s, and then Party Poker came out, and it was off to the races. Like I just ran up and just like there was another skin, I think it was Eurobet, and plus rake back. Just like we were 16 tabling 15-30. That's when I attended the Poker Society game with Maria Ho and her roommates. It was like after doing a whole bunch of operations, I really have to, I'm no troll. Like even though it looked low key, I have to commend you guys on the organization. Because especially for college students, like it's that age, it is not easy to do that stuff. And there were like multiple tables. I remember the rankings that you guys had on the website. But yeah, it was definitely a very good effort. And go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I almost felt like at this point, if I wanted to take a side gig as a tournament director, I could do it, because we got really into learning how to run the game in an efficient, professional manner. We had, seat cards, we had, the way we did the signups, and I don't know, it was definitely a great learning experience just when it comes to like learning how to organize people, running a business, dealing with like conflicting personalities, conflict
Oh yeah,
resolution. You
yeah.
know, we had a lot of crazy characters come in and out of those games. Um, and just finding ways to build it up and build a brand and get it more well known and popular. It's crazy. Like now, you know, 15 years later or whatever, I'll run into people who maybe they went to UCSD during that time or after, or even maybe they just like were a college student at like San Diego State or something. And they'll be like, oh, I heard about that game, or I heard about that club. Oh, like I know people who went to that. It still is something that people, you know, really have good memories of. And we also tried to do some like not to just, we weren't just straight up degenerates. We would do like charity poker tournaments for like Habitat for Humanity and stuff like that. You know, we would like try and at least do some giving back to the community in ways we could and stuff like that. So we were trying to definitely foster some goodwill with the administration there, but they did not care. Yeah, they did not care. They shut us down anyways. But you know, it was good while it lasted. What can I say?
You know, like it's some of these things are like a blessing in disguise too, because it's like one, you have the story, two, it's just like, you know, you have this like life experience, you've been through some stuff, so now that we're older we like look back and just like we calibrate things differently. So you know, obviously, you know, bang bang at my immaturity when I went there, I'm like, I'm not playing this, the stakes are too low. But just like, and after I do operations, I'm just like, dude, these guys like put in a lot of effort, like really cared about running these things. And you know, shout out to all college students. This is how you start out. You just like try, you know, you improve, you make mistakes, you adjust, you deal with like people, you deal with egos, and then all of a sudden, you know, you got something going and you have this like legacy story. And you know, you were just like, you know, before we did this, you were like, oh, you know, this might not be interesting. You know, you never know. Like I see people in the comment sections in the chat, they like remember me from back in the day, whether it's poker or StarCraft. They're going to be watching this and be like, dude, I played in the tournament. I remember Aaron Ho. I remember Steve Sung and all those guys. So this is just like, you know, a chapter in, you know, UCSD history and our history. And don't belittle it.
No, and honestly, like I didn't know at the time how much it would help me later in life, just in terms of crafting my own personal story. And when I talk about myself in meetings now as a screenwriter, I feel like that's the thing people jump out, that people respond to. Like when I, you know, introduce myself, hi, I'm Aaron Ho, I grew up in California. Oh, I paid for my college tuition with poker money. They immediately go like, wait, what? Tell me more about that. That sounds interesting. And I dive into, you know, how, you know, everything about running the poker society, but then how when I moved to LA and I had nothing and I was just trying to start off in the industry as like a production assistant and I'd be between gigs, how did I support myself? I would play poker and I would, you know, sort of do this thing where I might write during the day and play online poker at night. And that was enough to pay my rent and make it so I didn't have to bother like becoming a you know, a bartender or something like that. Like that was my way of keeping myself afloat. And I definitely feel like in a weird way, poker relates to like being in a writer's room. Like for me, like I work in sitcom writing, which is always very collaborative. You're in a writer's room, and there's a lot about reading the room, knowing the dynamics, the hierarchy. Same thing at a poker table. You know who the table captain is. You read the different personalities. You know who's tight aggressive, who's loose aggressive, who's the nit, who's the maniac, right? Same thing at a writer's room. You kind of gauge what each person is like and what they respond to, and you know all their pet peeves and things like that. And you learn how to pick your spots. Same thing, you know, in poker, you learn to pick your spots. You want to know like when to be changing gears and things like that, when to play aggressive, when to, you know, not to overbluff, things like that. Same thing in a writer's room. You're like kind of figuring out like, okay, the showrunner does not want to spitball right now. They want hard solutions. They don't want anyone fucking around. Like, you know how to pick your spots in a room and make sure that your accuracy is higher, you know, things like that. So in a weird way, like poker has definitely translated over into other aspects of life, and it's something that I think people should talk about more. And in one
That's
of
what
the
this is for.
yeah, but one of the writing one of the projects that I'm developing right now um, has poker involved, and it does kind of talk about how poker translates to um, real life, and just like the lessons you learn at a poker table can be applied to just your everyday life, and um, that I really want to take away the stigma that a lot of poker players I feel get stuck with. Like I think when most of the public thinks poker player, they think of this degenerate gambler who couldn't hack it with a real job in the real world, and maybe they're like someone who's just a fat guy who's unshowered and doesn't have their life together. Where I think people don't realize that a lot of poker players are very witty, smart, focused, takes a lot of discipline, takes a lot of study, takes a lot of, just a lot of practice. And I don't know, like there's a lot more to it. Like I regard top poker players in the same way that I would regard top athletes. Obviously, you know, you don't have to be as in physical, top physical shape, but in order to win consistently at a high level is very difficult to do. I mean, I remember the stat is something like only 1 out of 10 poker players is a
That's
winning
pretty
poker
high.
player in the long run. Yeah, I think it might even be.
I think it's a lot far less than that.
Yeah, it may be less than that. So to be part of that 10%, that 5% that consistently wins, I mean, it takes a lot of work. No one is born with advanced poker knowledge. That's something that you develop over years and years of play and reading poker books and poker articles. And I mean, now because there's so many resources online, like I feel like people
Live at the bike.
There you go, Live at the Bike. I got to tell you, I love Live at the Bike. I'm not just saying that. I constantly am watching those videos just to see how Garrett and Andy and all those top level cash game pros, approach the game, and it's definitely changed the way I play. Like I definitely feel like I've started to pick up a lot of new concepts about building ranges and just like, I mean, for them, it's such a leveling war with them, but it's just like, I got to say, like being able to have access to that has really given me, feel like a leg up in recent years with my poker game for sure. So keep doing what you're doing, Wayne.
I'll try. You actually succeeded where I failed because I was doing the same thing. I was like using poker to fund my screenwriting stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, like I got traction on some things, but they just didn't. I knew things weren't good enough, but like, you actually made it, so in the industry. That being said, I'm not gonna complain about my runouts in life, but yeah, definitely like I played with Garrett like 10-ish years ago in that range in 10-20 no limit, and developing poker ourselves, we realize a lot of the stuff that he studies and just like have a higher appreciation for certain hands or certain skill sets that are invisible to the naked eye, kind of like Hollywood. Like you watch a movie, you're like, oh, that sucks, or I can do better than that. I'm like, I don't think so. There's so many invisible things where, because everybody sees the cards and we could like pick apart people's mistakes, it's easy to like pick apart somebody's like faults, but to actually build it takes so much more effort. And if you've gone through the process, you just have higher appreciation for the stuff that they've done. One of the big things that I tell the audience is that I branched out to different games. I probably have like 6 or 7 like reasonably proficient games, but like Andy and Garrett are no limit hold'em purists. That is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Because like everyone plays no limit hold'em. So then the fact that they made it to like this era, obviously very successful. I watch it how much how they were back then and how they are now, and just like how much they've worked on their game, and just like they do things that I know what direction they went to, but I just haven't even gone to those depths.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. And it's just like when people watch sports, like you see this year it's great, and then you're impressed with some things, and next year it just like escalates and escalates and escalates, and then it's a beautiful thing to watch when you're interested.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching, not just how they play, but I feel like they're good ambassadors for the game. Like
Yeah.
they carry themselves in a very sportsman, like good sportsmanship.
Yeah.
They're not like sore losers. You know what I mean? Uh, like when someone gets the best of it on them or whatever, they just say like nice hand and they move on. They don't, you know what I mean? I feel like they put out like a really good image of of what how people should um, behave at the table,
I
and
agree.
I really respect that. I mean, I think we it's good to have people prop up people like that, and I hope that you know we get to a point where I think I like shining a spotlight on people like that. I mean, there are your big poker celebrities still in the world, your Doyle Brunsons, your Phil Hellmuth, and things like that. But I feel like um, there's I don't know there's definitely a new class of poker players, and
Yeah.
that should be more given more recognition. And I think because we're sort of past the heyday of the poker boom, there aren't like 20 poker shows on TV right now. It's unfortunate that some of these amazing players that have come out in the last 5-10 years aren't really getting their due. But there's definitely still like a strong audience out there that I think is just they can't get enough of this like poker content online, and I'm definitely one of them.
So yeah, I mean, definitely shout out to our generation and these guys. Like it's just a different generation. Like one of the things about like high stakes poker back then that I mentioned is like everybody knew each other, whereas like now everything's so fragmented. Like we have an online background, we have a live background, but we don't have like necessarily shared history. Like I know Doug Polk is, I know Joe Ingram is. I like their work. They like Live of the Bike, but we don't have any shared experiences. We're like, you can tell Helmuth, Esfandiar, and Nick Granu, they all had like shared experiences, and that comes out at the table. So that's something that I was focusing on, putting the lineups together amongst the things that you mentioned, like obviously Garrett, Andy, and Nick Vertucci. They're good ambassadors for the game. They're characters, but they're not like showcasing this in a bad light, and they help the next generation. Just like, look, you can act like this, or 80% of this, or even 50% of this, and it's heading in a better direction. In which you mentioned that poker players may get a bad rap. Just like esports, I think it's changing. I don't think the way to do it is to force people and say, hey, this is legit, this is legit, this is legit. It's just like a slow process where ambassadors like Garrett and Andy, you watch them carry themselves, you see them with tons of money, then people just automatically go like, oh, what's this? It's like, as you know in film, showing, not telling.
Yeah.
And I don't ambassador like myself or pro poker players in public, but when I say that, primarily my income was poker in that era, and definitely this is still a fraction, a decent fraction. They just see it like the way I carry myself. It's like, is this guy a slovenly, like, lazy guy? No, like everybody says I work my ass off. But so it just like that part's apparent, but just like the people like Karen and Andy, they chose, eventually to play on camera. We know a bunch of goats, like including Steve Sung, that are just off camera, but they don't want to be on camera. It's like just like the business world, or even in Hollywood, like the producer or even director world. Some of the really good ones, they like the public doesn't even know their skill sets. We only see like their end product.
Yeah.
So like the business people we see say, we do see some goats, like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. But there's a lot of like super rich people that you and I will never attain their amount of wealth, that we
Yeah.
just the public has no idea who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they may be just like incredibly shrewd and didn't have like, say the background that, Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg have. But, we've
Mm-hmm.
seen these like super elite players, at least, in the area and online. And we're just like, oh my gosh, they're not even being showcased. But part of being showcased is like a collaborative effort. Like I'm sure you see Garrett, and he doesn't really talk, but Garrett tries to
yeah
tries to interact with the table, which is like, I'm not nearly as good as him interacting with the table, but I do try. I definitely am not the headphones like iPad guy, but watching how he engages people, it just sets a good example, and it makes it so people do watch and they're like, oh, this is a thing. And just like in every industry, there's like good influences and bad influences, and hopefully humanity is good enough that it heads towards the good influences.
Yeah.
This was all like, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, I feel I totally hear what you're saying. There's a lot of amazing players out there that we've never heard of, but I guess what it is, because with poker, I feel like so much is happening internally in someone's head that people don't realize how much thought and brilliance goes in dissecting a hand, because it all happens so quickly and it's happening so internally that I think that's why it's easy for people to dismiss poker players as like, oh, they're just gambling. It's just luck. Whereas if you were just like, imagine this is Scrubs, right? And JD goes like this, and we zoom into their head. You're seeing like the beautiful mind, like they're building out the range and they're doing the pot odds and they're doing their, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think it's good to have high level players talk about that stuff and go through what they're thinking about during specific moments in hands, and that can kind of illuminate the non-poker public of like, oh shit, this is it's like it's being the same as being a chess a chess champion, you know what I mean? Like they're putting that much thought, they're thinking that many levels ahead.
I think like poker's the ultimate Dunning-Kruger game though, because it's like you don't know what you don't know. So when you watch somebody do something, you're like, oh, I could do that. And maybe you can, but most likely you weren't considering like, the 10 to 100 things that were being considered by, somebody like the advanced players. And one of the things is like, we know this too, like business and poker players and even people in Hollywood, they don't want to reveal their secrets. Like, so when they're, being interviewed or doing a hand breakdown, they're like, oh, well, this, and this, and I'm guilty of this too, but the thing is, we have to do things in layman's terms for the audience, right? Like, like I had this problem in the past when I was at UCSD and even just soon after I graduated. When somebody wanted help in poker, I would try to make them a winning player. People just want to play the style that they play, except better. So in the last few years, I like wisened up, and I take what they are instead of like forcing them to, play winning poker. I kind of massage what they're doing and, have them just be better at what they do. It's like a leopard. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's really good insight, and that it's sort of just like playing to people's strengths, like identifying like, this is what you do really well. Let's take that and make that and build your game around that thing. So if if it's poker, it's like, you really know how to do the math part of it really well, or you really know how to do the psychology part of it really well, or you're naturally good at, being aggressive or what have you, and just building their game around that. And I feel like the same thing applies to Hollywood and writing, in that people have certain strengths in their writing. Maybe they're good at story structure, maybe they're good at jokes, maybe they're good at character, and you learn how to play to those strengths. Obviously, it's better to be a utility player where you're good at everything.
Sure.
And you try to build up those weak parts, but it's good to know. I think it's helpful if you know what you're strong, what your strengths are, so that you can make sure to set yourself apart by letting people know, like, it's in the way that people say Aaron Sorkin's really good with dialogue. You know what I mean? It's like if you know you're good at a certain thing, you can pitch yourself that way. Your reps can pitch you that way. When it comes to breaking into like TV writing, when a showrunner is putting together their room, they specifically want to know what your your
Strengths.
strength is, because they want to know, like, okay, in my room already, I have people who are good at jokes. I need story people. Are you that person? Are you good at story structure? And I don't know. I feel like in the same way that people see poker, they think there's a lot of luck involved. They might think in Hollywood.
There is.
They might think in Hollywood it's the same way. It's like people are just overnight successes, but they don't realize it takes 5 years, 10 years of hard work, study, and networking to become that overnight success. It's kind of like, they don't bother to pull back behind the curtain, see all the hard work that's been put into it, to realize that it's not as effortless as they think. And so I don't know, like, it's all just a hustle, right? Like I feel like making it in Hollywood's a hustle in the same way poker is a hustle, and you have no idea where your opportunities are going to come from, or where you're going to find where that opportunity is going to come out just with the right timing and all that, because it's one of those things where I remember I've gotten jobs, or I've made really, really good contacts just by chance, because I happened to be proactive, and I was like, I'm going to go to that lame networking thing that most people aren't going to bother go to, but I meet that person who knows this person who knows that person, who ends up getting me a job. Or even with poker, like we go to poker games that with people who are connected, like those, who would have thought just doing something I already enjoy, playing poker, would help me connect with people that can get me work. Like it's just one of those things, like, you should always be planting these seeds, and hopefully if you have the talent, you have the material, at some point someone will ask to read you, you have that thing to give them, and it leads to a gig. So it's all just one big hustle. But I do think with poker in Hollywood, there is a thing of sort of like variance, high variance.
Oh yeah,
feast or famine, right? Like, that's how I feel about writing. Is when I'm working and I'm on a show, I'm making really good money, life is good, like, that's the feast part. And then the show ends and I go into a panic and I'm getting no money, and that's just the variance. And then so I think learning to like deal with high and low variance in poker has helped me deal with not freaking out every time I'm on a show and it ends or it gets canceled or whatever. It's just like, that's just the highs and lows of the game. That's just how it is. And if you just have to like have faith that your ability will get you through it.
I'm doing the sign language for all your
like,
talk.
I see you. I get you.
Yeah. The writers game that we're in is like, there's so many successful people. And it's funny, the chats, I was like, look at these broke guys. It's like, some of these guys are super filthy.
I was like, some of them have been working in network TV consistently for a long time, or just in general, just working consistently for a long time, even, whether it's on network or not. Like, that's hard to do. Like, I mean, there are so many talented writers in this town and only so many jobs. If you can just like stay consistently working, like you're killing it. You are killing it.
Yeah. They don't know. The audience doesn't know. That's when we go back to the subject of like, when you see Garrett Andy and Nick Fertucci with all this money, like, it's tangible. But like, these Hollywood guys or, other industries that play poker, they're just trying to match cards, or they're just like trying to have fun. They're not, and one of the things that we learned is like, dealing with these people is like, sure, we're probably better than these guys. What are we going to do? Skin them for every penny? That then get kicked out? Like, no, we try to be social with them, and just like, if they have a question, you just answer, and just go from there. I mean, that's one of the adjustments that I made from being like, a high stakes cutthroat pro to what I am now, like house player plus like live the bike. Like, I soft play some people, which I never thought I would do, but there's like negative repercussions with my position to be cutthroat and fight for every fraction of an EV. So
I mean, I agree. I mean, especially, it's like you're thinking of like, what are you trying to get out of this game? Are you trying to make a money, or are you just trying to like have a good time, make friends, and maybe build some friendships and some like professional relationships that will be that could work for you down the road? I completely agree. I mean, you know, I don't know about what other games you're playing in. I don't feel like we're playing in games where it's like, it's not Molly's game, right? We're not playing
Um,
for, for crazy money. So it's like, there's no reason to take it super serious.
yeah.
No one's going broke or putting their life savings up or anything like that. I mean, it's not, we're not playing for nickels and dimes either, but um, like, I don't know. I love that poker is so, um, it's it builds bridges. I don't know, like
Yeah.
I've met so many interesting people through poker, um, especially TV writers. Sometimes like people who, one of my good friends, his name is Brian Shin. He's now been writing for The Good Doctor, and I remember 12 years ago, 13 years ago, we were both at Commerce grinding out the 918 limit hold'em
Oh,
game at
yeah, that was
Commerce.
on the upstairs. It was
Yeah,
on
the
the second
918
level.
limit
Yeah.
game. And at the time, I was a lowly assistant. I think he was also like, you know, working some job in the production office. We both had big dreams of being TV writers, and we just met at the table and we said, "Hey, man, this is nice meeting you. Let's stay friends." You know, like we're both trying to make in the screenwriting game. And lo and behold, it takes some years later, but we ended up both doing it. But we met at the poker table, and we I've met a lot of other writers just like that. And you'll find these other like Hollywood home games and these other like random writer tournaments. Like the Writers Guild actually has a charity poker tournament that they do every year. Obviously, you're not playing to win a bunch of money. It's
Yeah.
all for charity. You do get some prizes if you make it to final table or what have you. But like I remember, I played a couple years in a row. I think I final table 2 or 3 times, and I ended up one of the years going heads up with Scott M. Gimple, who's the showrunner of The Walking Dead,
Oh,
and
wow.
and
Yeah.
is now in charge of like the entire Walking Dead universe. And it was interesting. I was like, there's no other situation where I would be able to like really create this professional relationship with this guy, because we're in totally different worlds. I'm a comedy writer.
Right.
He's writing for Walking Dead. He's this really high level writer. Like
Yeah.
I would normally never be able to get an introduction to him, but because we were playing in this tournament, I was able to like, you know, get to know him a little bit, and I hope to maybe like bring him to a home game or something at some point. But it's just funny like how like poker attracts so many different types of personalities from different walks of life. Like there's certain people you would never ever rub elbows with, but you know, because you're at a poker game and you know everyone's just there to have a good time, you'll create friendships you never thought you could.
Yeah. Like, when I was playing big back then, I had no idea some of the ultra successful people I was playing with, and then in red, I probably still don't even know all of them, but some of them I found out what they did after. I'm like, oh my god, I just check raised this guy for he's never gonna talk to me again. But they don't view it like that. As long as you're a friendly guy, you know, or whatever, they have fun with you. Even if you're like an abrasive like asshole, as long as they're having fun, they're not gonna, you know, hold it
Mm-hmm.
against you. Because like when you're in that cards environment, it's not like you're threatening their business. You're just threatening their money. Like if you threaten their business, they'll kill you. But
Sure.
yeah, but like yeah, some people like just over the years, I'm just like, wow, like I had no idea. So that's why like there's this kind of balance that you have to figure out. Like if you're only a professional poker player, you're going to try to skin them for every fraction of EV. But then when you have all these other things, now you have to like just recalibrate, like you know what you're doing. Like, I don't want to name any names, but it's just different. Like there's no instruction booklet on like say Hollywood or you know poker or just anything in general. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I think like when you were saying oh people have a bad impression of poker, it might be like a polarized demographic because like really think about it, the super high end people they definitely don't, the super low end people don't. So what is it? It's like this like middle class demographic that is like very hardworking and it's
Mm-hmm.
very admirable, but they just have this perception because one maybe they can't see what's going on, and two they're just like too risk averse.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're a business, if you're running a business or you're doing Wall Street or you're doing poker, you're gonna have to have some risk tolerance. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that like a normal ascending person, you know, that you know works the next level, next level, next level, they may not have, and that's just a I would just say a miscommunication or just different skill sets. Like they're just going in different directions, and there's no need to just like hammer, you should respect this. It's like, look, go Google me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a lot of people who just feel like society says you should be working a steady job 9 to 5, and like that's the responsible, mature thing to do. And there's people who fall outside of that, and it's like they don't want that existence. They prefer to be their own boss and work their own hours and do something that's, I don't know, gives it gives them a little more, maybe they enjoy the variance, like the little bit of gamble is what makes it worth doing and makes it fun and exciting. And if they take it seriously, they make money at it too. And I think a lot of people feel like you're going around the system by doing that. They feel like poker is a job for people who can't hold down a real job. And I just think that's bullshit, and people should stop looking at it that way. And some of this is just me trying to justify my own existence, right? To my family and things like that. But I think a lot of it is because they don't realize, like, I have spent countless hours watching videos, dissecting them, reading books, reading articles, dissecting my play, going into my poker app and reviewing the hand and looking at the percentages to make sure my odds were correct. I had the right implied odds to make that call, whatever it is. Like there's a lot of study involved. It's not like you're just out there like throwing your chips willy-nilly. Like I think I just wish we could reframe it so people understand, like, there's a lot of smarts involved, and it's something that I think that should not just be depicted, especially in TV and film, as like that degenerate. I mean, I feel like when you see a poker player on TV and film, it's usually a degenerate. It's just like some degen who's lost their whole bankroll. There's very few depictions of poker players in a positive light, I feel like.
I mean, if anything, I would think that like Hollywood is overly depicted, like poker players as successful when the success rate's much lower. Like in Billions, there's that like genius kid in Billions, the like Koppelman and like Living co-wrote Rounders too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a genius kid who's like, oh, he's just analyzing a hand, real time, and just like showing that it's like I agree with you that the public should. We can't change how people are or how they fundamentally think, and also us like kind of pressuring them to be like, oh, you should respect this, you should respect this. Well, that's not the way that they think, and everyone's entitled to think the way that they think. And honestly, if they hear these things, they kind of burst their own bubble. So like trying to force these things, like in a way, it's kind of pointless, because we all have our biases. Like there's all things that we like or don't like. But I just think that along with film, if people like Garrett, Andy, or myself, or other people just like show this is a legitimate career, and I'm honest with people on air. Like, I grew up with like a lot of people like Steve Sung. I saw he had like, I remember him back then. I didn't play with him that often, but I'm like, okay, this guy's like hyper aggressive, plays in position. He's at this young age, you're going to be going places. So I just communicate this stuff on air, and as we know, it's a slow process, and people's stereotypes can get outdated once the newer generations come in, and so on. So I kind of think you just like outlast people. Like a lot of stuff you did for Hollywood, you probably just outlasted a lot of people that gave up, right?
I know a lot of people who they, after a couple of years, they can't take the ups and downs. They're like, I'm gonna move back to nowhere's Indiana and become a realtor or whatever. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely like approaching it with being driven, being persistent, being proactive. There's just so many levels to poker that I think people don't talk about, like the mental game, about really keeping yourself centered, and game selection, making sure you're not putting yourself in situations where you're going to be unfocused. Like Steve gets into this a lot. Like he really had put a lot of work into his mental game and like making sure he's like in a very zen, state at all times. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's something that a lot of poker players don't think about or work on, of like meditating and stuff like that, and always really just making sure you're feeling a sense of calm and you're thinking clearly, and you know, having the discipline to walk away from a game if you feel yourself starting to get antsy. I think a lot of people, they're like I'm stuck. I gotta get back to even, or they have the mentality of like I'm up $999. I can only leave when I'm up 1,000, and they chase that $1 and they end up losing their whole stack. Like just little things like that, of like being able to make sure that you're firing on all cylinders, and taking care of yourself mentally, eating right and exercising and having the right like balance up here to make sure that you're playing solid at the table.
Yeah, the topic is, just coming in. I mean, we've known about this, but it's coming more into light. Shout out to Garrett, doing it on the Joe Young podcast. He also did it in the Live of the Bike archives too. But just like, yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions that even, we had back when we were starting, even mid-career or so on. And it's never evolving process to like learn about, like you said, this beautiful game that takes a lot of skill that is like invisible. But who is it? I don't remember who said this quote, but it was like when they think they could like compete with like Garrett, Andy, or the other guys on the Friday show, just because they've seen them play on camera, they're like, oh, I could do brain surgery because I watch a couple episodes of ER. It's like very similar. Like you just
Right.
don't get the depth. But how did poker? I know you touched this like earlier, but were there any specific stories that poker helped you network into getting the specific jobs that you had?
I mean, I definitely know. So just to talk a little bit about my like writing background and like shows I've been a part of. Um, I've kind of hopped around all over the place. Like I've done a lot of stuff on network, like Cougar Town, Fresh Off the Boat, some stuff in like kids TV, Austin and Alley, which was like a Disney Channel show. I did some Nickelodeon variety specials. I sold them to pilots. And then I've done some animation, kids animation for Netflix. And so I've kind of done a little bit of everything. And basically every time I've worked on any of those shows, at least one of the execs or the showrunners, one of them will play poker or at least enjoy talking about poker. And it's definitely, I felt like, helped me connect with those people and help me get those jobs. Definitely like on Austin Alley, those showrunners, I remember that I felt like that was the turning point in the meeting. It was like, I was talking about my background. I was talking about the TV shows I like and just like, writing in general. And it's like all stuff they've heard before. But once I talked about poker and they're like, oh, we play poker. Tell me, let's talk about that. And that became the entire rest of the meeting. And I got that job. And, I still like to bring it up with them. And every once in a while, it's been a while now, but like I would have a home game, they're always down to join in on that. And so I do feel like, just having an interesting hobby that not everyone else has is immediately going to set you apart, make you interesting, and bring a POV to a writer's room that they're missing. And so I feel like in that way, it's definitely helped me get jobs. And on Fresh Off the Boat, like it just so happened that like one of the showrunners used to work with one of the people who are in the writer's home game that we play in. And so like I had a mutual friend there, someone that was able to like speak highly of me and put in a good word. And that's how most of this business works. I don't have to tell you that. Yeah. It's like so much of Hollywood is networking. It's all about being able to pick up the phone and say, hey, can you put in a good word for me with your old buddy who used to work on this show, and just let them know that I'm capable and not crazy, and that I would be a good addition to their writing staff. Like that's so much of what this job is. And so, like I said, it's just like in this town, it's shocking how much crossover there is between like writers, actors, directors, producers, everybody, but writers and poker. And it's definitely, I felt like, helped me network in that way. Yeah, like it's I feel like poker has definitely become more mainstream in that way, and people are it's also like a fun way to have a mixer and network without it feeling like networking. Like, because writers go to networking events all the time where it's just like you meet at a bar and you have drinks and you talk to people. But if you invite them to a poker game, it feels like something different. It feels something more new and exciting.
Social, yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like it feels less like
forced,
transactional. Like it feels, even though it's poker and there's literally transactions going on with chips going, but it doesn't feel like this like, what can you do for me kind of thing. It just feels like, oh, we're just friends playing at a game. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I hope to continue finding different games with different writers and people in it. And there's a lot of them around town. It's just a matter of like, you know, trying to get that invite.
And the audience doesn't, like, the general audience doesn't know you've actually done quite a bit of that's like, you're like 35ish now, right? Around that. Yeah, dude, you've done a lot, you know, for your age. And like a lot of the people that, you know, we play with, I knew them like, you know, 10, maybe more than 10 years ago. And you're like, you know, comparable or even possibly ahead, or, you know, a little behind some people. So you'll see a lot happening for you probably in the next 5-10 years. Knock on wood.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
But no, I mean, like the audience, it's hard for them to calibrate, because remember, like when we were 10-15 years ago, your metric for success is like, oh, did you write Dark Knight, or, you know, something like that, or you know, Avatar or something like that. But now we're just like, oh my god, you know, it's just like there's so many things that are going on that are, you know, just good, and like metrics that, or just like milestones that show that when you're 35 doing these things, you know, knock on wood, but you should probably have a good future ahead of you. We'll see. Maybe your
I hope so.
Maybe your poker thing is going to be the next Rounders.
Maybe I would love that. And one thing that I feel like, I actually was just talking with my reps about it yesterday, and I had started just developing the characters, and they were like, you should base this on yourself. You should make them Asian. You should cast this with Asian actors, or write it that way. And normally that's something that I get a little weary about, because I'm just like, Hollywood doesn't have a desire for that. But they were like, no, things are changing. They're like, people want diverse leads. People are tired of seeing the same, you know, faces all the time. Like, you should try, if there was ever a time to do stuff like that, now is the time.
Yeah, I agree.
And what's interesting is with poker is like, that feels very real, because there are a lot of Asian poker celebrities. Like, you know, obviously Rounders made Johnny Chan a household name, but like, you know, there's a lot of people out there. I mean, Scotty Nguyen, Min Nguyen, John Yuanda, you know, John
Andy,
Singer,
come on, Andy.
Wayne, Andy.
me, no.
You, yeah, exactly. Like there's a lot of different, our you know, Asians are very well represented in the poker community, and I feel like that's one place you could realistically cast people in there. But
that's true.
Just feel
I didn't think of that. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, when you turn on ESPN, the only time you're going to see Asian faces on ESPN is when they're running the World Series of Poker, right? Like, that's the only time. Yeah, or okay, there's the exception, exactly.
But that's a testament to what you were saying, and what, you know, your team was telling you, is that, like, look at Linsanity. Why did it happen? Like, people are rooting for that stuff. Like, if Jeremy Lin wants to be the next Jordan or LeBron or Kobe, he's got to earn it himself. But nobody wants to see this injustice of, like, somebody getting suppressed when he has the talent, when he had the capability. like to at least give him a chance. And then if he wants to get to that top level, everyone's gonna have to earn it. I think. But no, I mean that's totally true, and it's funny because I was talking with Julie Yorn about this, but 5 years ago, I had a musical dramedy that was like had Asian leads, and one of the person consulting was the DreamWorks story consultant, and she was just like, I don't know if it's a she. I think it was a she, but it was like the way it was written, the notes were written to me. It was like change the leads to white and cut out certain things. And but they, I know, but the thing is, they were being, it wasn't like malicious. They were being realistic. So I didn't.
They're like, this is marketable. Yeah.
Yeah. So they said change a couple things, and I did. And then one of the Step Up 2 producers like caught eye, and I had a couple meetings with him, and then just like so it's just like part of it is just reality. Like, was I insulted? No, because they meant well. And that being said, Julie was like, look, like now, look, they want that stuff, which, I'm out of the game now, but for now, but it's like the time will come for these things. Like it's like if whatever you're doing or other agents are doing, if they're going to try to topple Avengers Endgame, okay, that's that's you're gonna have to figure that one out. But to get on the map and be respectable, like say Crazy Rich Asians, or Tokyo Drift and stuff like that. Shout out to Justin Lin and John Chu. John Chu actually went to my high school. He's 1 year younger than me.
Really? Oh, that's wild.
I went to Gun.
How crazy.
I used to go to his parents' restaurant.
You better call him up. Use that alumni connection, man.
Yeah, you know me. I'm gonna earn my way. I don't like. I don't do that. I mean, it's just like people noticed me. Julie and Martin Schaefer being among them, but like you guys know my style. I gotta earn my way.
I feel
not like call people, but no, it's just like your story too about the interesting stuff. The first time I interviewed for the UCLA MFA program, the guy interviewing me, Paul Castro, was like a little shocked that I wasn't a classical film fan. So he would ask me like what my favorite Kurosawa film is. I'm like, I haven't seen one. And then he was like, what's your favorite classic film? I'm like, well, Casablanca was okay. I'm like, I could see his face. He's like, oh my God, what's this guy doing here? And then when I told him the story about like UCSD and I was like playing poker and blackjack, he was like, oh, blackjack. So I'm like, oh my God, I finally found something. So he was far more interested in that stuff than, my actual writing career. But just like anything interesting is also, it's not just like poker is interesting in Hollywood. Like when you go to a poker table, everyone's got these different like skill sets and experiences. And that's one of the awesome things. It's like at a poker table, you just like, talk to people and you just, play some cards and get a social experience, learn some things. I learned more at the poker table than I did at school. Oh, no diss to UCSD though.
No, I don't. I totally agree with you. And like I said, I think that's what I love about poker is like you can at any given poker table, even you can have people from very different socioeconomic backgrounds, especially when you go to Vegas during the World Series of Poker. You go around the table, where are you from? And it's like, people from all over the world flying in to play in these World Series of Poker tournaments. And it's like crazy to hear about their journey of who they are, how they got there, how they got into poker, what they had to get through, like the trouble they went through to come play in that tournament. Like you meet the most interesting people. Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, it's there's a lot more stories I think that come out of the poker world that we should be hearing more about. Either
I don't know about that one. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I'm just saying. Most recently, I read 2 books that I found very interesting. One of them was written by Houston Curtis, who was in part of the Hollywood Home Game that with Tobey Maguire that Molly's Game is all based on, and it's his take on like what really happened behind the scenes with Molly's Game.
Different.
And how it's not really even Molly's game, it was really his and Toby's game calling all the shots, and Molly was there to just kind of like call the people and gather, kind of just organize. And it's called $1 Billion Hollywood Heist, and it's really interesting. It's a really good read, and for anyone who, obviously, if you love poker, you're going to find it interesting. But just I think just anyone, just Joe Schmo would read it and love it because it's got a lot of highs and lows, and it's really interesting, and it references a lot of like celebrities and people that you know about, so that makes it a little more tantalizing. And then I also, even though this book has been out for you, the book I just referenced, the $1 Billion Hollywood Heist, that just came out within the last few months. But another book that's been out for years is The Professor, the Banker, and Suicide King, which is all about like Andy Beal and the corporation playing $100,000, $200,000 limit hold'em heads up in Vegas against all those pros, and it's just like that's something that should definitely be, I think, adapted into a feature. I probably shouldn't say it out loud. Someone's gonna beat me to it, but it's like, I mean, that's an insane story of all the pros going up against some random Texas billionaire and playing for like the highest stakes game I've ever heard of. Like, there's a lot of stories like that I think just people should be trying to get on the screen, and who knows, maybe we can start up a second poker boom if we can just get all this content out there, get the public interest again. Poker boom number 2.
There's maybe a based on real life story, the Poker Society. Maybe you should do that one.
Oh, trust me, my reps have been pushing for that. They're like, that's the other thing you should talk about. Is like do something based on that time in your life, and it's definitely something that's on my to-do list. I just got to find the right way to approach it. But I don't know, man. Like, hopefully there's an appetite for it. I mean, there's been a lot of bad poker. Like, there's been a lot of bad poker movies, unfortunately. So I think Hollywood is kind of like, I don't know. Like, that's not going to make money. Like, even Rounders, which we consider a hit based in the poker community because it's such a cult favorite, that didn't make money, and that's the best poker movie there is. So it's like, it's hard to make something even though you're passionate about it and you love it and it's interesting, when there isn't a track record of big profits. Studios aren't there to make art, they're there to make money.
That's the double-edged sword, right? Because it's like when Titanic came out, then they did Pearl Harbor, so it's like you want to do clones, which the second or third one may take some of the the spill off, or something new, which is like, if it hasn't worked before, there's also an opportunity to do something. But like, per what you just said, people that we know tasked me to do that too. They're like, write what you know, and I'm like, dude, there's nothing I find interesting about the poker world. Probably because I know.
You just gotta find the right story. It's there.
I think like a lot of the poker movies have like good intentions and like good moments, but it's just like not strong enough to like, bring it to the general audience.
Sure.
So I don't know. Like, you have a much better chance in vision than I would. So, so name drop some of the famous people that you played with over the years.
like I said, I wish I could get into these bigger Hollywood home games and I have more people to talk about. Like, I mean, obviously, like, honestly, though, when I run to celebrities at a poker table, it's usually at like a charity poker event or something like that. The likes of Gary Busey, Don Cheadle, Dave Foley, and I don't know, other random people. And of course, we've all probably seen. There's always those few poker celebs, not poker celebs, but just Hollywood celebs that are just seem to find their way at tournaments at the Bike or Commerce all the time. Like, I always see like Aaron Paul or James Woods or Kevin Pollak or whoever else. And I've definitely gotten busted out of a tournament by Jamie Gold before. And he had the worst of it and he outdrew me, but I guess it's fine. So I can say I got busted out.
Now you have a story.
A former world champion, but that's okay. That's the way it goes. But
the thing is, like, once you actually get into those echelons, you're now your Fight Club. You're not supposed to talk about them. So
that's right. You're right. That's probably.
It's like some of the audience is like, why am I being so cryptic? I'm like, I'm not trying to do it on purpose. It's just like certain things. It's not like a big secret, but just like, it's not supposed to be something that you show off. Kind of. It's just like, just
Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do want to protect like the privacy as much as possible, certain things. But it's more like a hint, like, what you see on camera in the poker world is just a tip of the iceberg. And even some of
Oh
the
yeah.
shows, I think
Yeah.
back like 15 years ago, like it was a different flavor. Like these guys had history and they were more like talky and chatty, where everyone now is just super serious, and they have to like calibrate how much they want to like let in. And just like it's not fun for the for certain types of players if they're there to match cards or have fun, to play against people with headphones and iPads and just like not
Yeah.
talking and just like clearly have studied quite a bit.
Yeah.
We've seen some of those people on Live of the Bike, and it's just like, to compete at that level, you kind of have to do that. Like one of the sessions, Darren Elias and Garrett Adelstein were going at it. These guys obviously know each other, and then when they're going at it, just like, whew, what's going in there.
Yeah. Definitely.
So yeah, like when you want to come back on the show, just let me know. I mean, we've been talking about it a lot, but you were busy. You were on Fresh Off the Boat.
Yeah.
For like quite a bit, and just wrapped up. How did that feel?
I mean, it felt great. It was a show that I was really proud to be part of. I kind of joined the show late in its run, but I was just very happy to be able to be part of that show and its legacy. I mean, it's the first show centered around an Asian American family in like 20 some years or something like that. And to me, that's huge. Like, that may never happen again in my lifetime, to be part of a show where there's, most of the main cast is Asian. Like, that's just such a rare thing nowadays. Hopefully, it won't be the last. I mean, there'll be more of those on TV, but I had a great experience. All the rest of the writers were very welcoming, and they really understood what it was like to, get those specific stories that were championed, the Asian POV or the Asian American POV, and what that meant, and pick that apart, and that nuance. And I really felt like they wanted to tell stories that would dispel stereotypes, and would showcase what a real Asian family or Asian American family was like, not just what people's, I don't know, outside, like their misconceptions might be. And a lot of talented people on the cast. I got to say, all of them could act. They were really great. I mean, Randall Park is just like, a hero. He's like funny, and also just like the nicest guy in real life. And I hope to work with him again. And I don't know, I'll be very interested to see where everyone's careers go, and hopefully get a chance to work with everybody again. And it definitely, I think, shows there's an audience for shows starring Asians. Like, they're for a long time, the argument was there's no audience for that. We can't put a show like that on the air. Nobody will watch it.
Yeah.
It ran for 6 seasons. I mean, clearly there is a desire, and it's not just Asian people watching it. I hear from fans all the time, people from all walks of life saying, we love Fresh Off the Boat. We watch it every week. It's one of our favorite shows, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully there'll be another Asian sitcom on the air soon. Could be.
Yours.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully it's mine. We'll see.
We're gonna call it. We're gonna call it right now. Live at the Bike PokerCraft, like Aaron Ho is. In a couple of years, boom, we called it here, 2020.
There it is. I hope you're right. We'll see.
We'll do a little trivia drop, like before Constant Wu was famous, like in New York. She and I saw the same play, and then she actually read one of my things. Like, my thing was garbage, but like even back then, I could tell she was like she had potential of being, who knows who's going to be a star, but definitely you could tell that.
Yeah.
Potential.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's it? I had something in mind. I completely forgot. Oh yeah. Did you watch Always Be My Maybe with Randall Park?
I did. Yeah, with Ali Wong and Randall Park. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Me too.
It was, I mean, I feel like that was definitely more of Randall's kind of like comedy wheelhouse. Like I feel like playing that type of character was definitely more truer to him and his sensibility. And I guess the crazy thing is like Ali Wong and Randall Park, they like know each other from their
Yeah.
UCLA
Way
days, or
back.
they were they were part of like the same comedy troupe or something like that. And so you know, I know they co-wrote it together along with Mike Galamko, who's like another Asian American writer, and good for them. Like they were able to create their own content and get it out there, and it was a huge hit. And it's just another example of here's another movie with Asian American leads, and people loved it, and it did really well. And they got like Keanu Reeves in it. Like it created a lot of buzz. I really enjoyed it. And it was like
Me too.
and I also feel like it didn't fall into the same traps that I feel a lot of like Asian American narratives fall into, where it's like the Joylette Club and it's all about like fighting against white society or something like that. Which not to say people shouldn't talk about, but I feel like this was a movie. It was, you know, it was very relatable and universal, and I didn't feel like it had to rely on them being Asian to drive like the narrative. It was just like these are just like two funny, interesting people, and this is the real life, like something that could happen in real life. Two friends reconnecting who hooked up once, and you know them, you know, trying to get back into each other's lives. Like I feel like it just felt very normal, because I feel like before when you would pitch something with Asian people in it, they'd be like, yes, but like, where's the part about how their Asian identity is holding them back in life or something? You know what I mean? Or like you really had to like really dig into that. And it's like, no, like we don't have to do that. White people don't do that when they pitch stories. They don't talk about how their whiteness is defining, you know, every element of the story. They're just telling this fun, interesting story they came up with. And it's like, it's nice to show that Asians can do that too.
So yeah, speaking of that, it's like it's funny because our era at UC San Diego and the audience fucking is like, oh, wait, he's gonna drop UCSD again. But like, there were a lot of people that went on to do like quite a few things, like in the poker world. Obviously, Steve Sung, Joseph Chung, Maria Ho, Tantri went on Poker Stars. I don't know if he probably does want his name drop. It's Andy Wang. There's just like so many people, and like probably a bunch of people I haven't mentioned too. And then there's Wong Fu Productions, which I didn't know those guys personally, but I saw Phil Wang was on Ascension, the dance team, and while he was doing all this Wong Fu stuff, he worked at the Tapioca Express off Nobel. So he was like, you know, he was just grinding. He wasn't like, you know, celebrity or blah blah blah. You know?
Yeah. No, I mean, those Wong Fu production guys, they were basically there at the same time I was there, and I remember like seeing some of their first projects. Like they first started putting up random things on YouTube or whatever. But then I remember when they made their first feature-length film, and they screened it at one of the the theaters on campus, and like they've really created their own brand, and really just it's very impressive, the fan base they've built. It's very loyal. You know, people know a lot about them. They've really like made a name for themselves. They're hard workers. I gotta say, I'll be interested to see what kind of stuff they create in the future, and whether they can cross over from more of the digital
platform,
like digital platform, into if more mainstream stuff, if that's what they want to do. Just because like I feel like if you have good stories, not to say that like, you know, the bigger the audience is a barometer
metric,
for
yeah,
a metric for your success.
Quality,
but it's like if you have stuff that the only way you're gonna have your stuff like really create the conversations you want is you need people of different backgrounds seeing it, so that way you can have that conversation. And so I feel like the way to do that would be to maybe like try and get it out to the masses. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I bump into those guys every once in a while at like random networking events and stuff like that. So
Do they remember you?
Always, yeah, yeah. Like it. They're very implanted in the Asian entertainment community. Like there aren't that many Asian content creators here in LA. Like we all kind of know each other. We all attend the same events and are all part of the same organizations that all champion Asian voices. And so we all tend to run into each other at all these events and stuff like that. And I'm always excited to talk to them and see what they have going on and what they have in the pipeline. So we'll see what happens.
Before I forget, I met Wesley Chan at Nice Time Cafe, and he was like super nice, and I didn't know. I think he had a ring on it, so he got
right?
chained down before you did. I'm just kidding.
You know
who also was a UCSD in our era that's Asian is Jimmy O Yang.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was there during our time, and he was just on Joe Rogan's podcast. I mean, this is being recorded mid-June 2020. So yeah, it was like, that's crazy because like I said, there's so many people in like our era that ended up like we saw them like, I wasn't paying attention to Jimmy O Yang back then, but like he was doing stuff, and you could like look on YouTube or whatever. It dates all the way back, so.
Good for him. I like Jimmy O Yang. I watched his stand-up special on Amazon. I really loved it. It was really interesting. I think more people should watch it. And he's definitely, I gotta say, like he has his own POV. He has a strong POV, and I feel like because he wasn't born in the U.S., he came here, so he comes in with an interesting like outsider's view of America and what America is, and how it's just like such a crazy place where it's like people fight their entire, they sacrifice everything to come here as an immigrant, and yet the country that they've sacrificed so much to get here for just completely, for the most part, a lot of times will just hate on them the entire time, but yet like this is where you go to make your dreams come true. And I don't know, he's got a good energy. I hope to work with him at some point too. I mean, he's funny.
Jimmy O Yang, hear it? Aaron Hall wants to work with you. But you didn't watch the Joe Rogan podcast that he had, right?
I watched some of it. The part that you sent me about how
the dad story.
No, it was a part about he was considered. His rep sent him the script to be the star of the William Hung biopic.
Oh, yeah. That's like, woof. And shout out to William Hung, who was on Live at the Bike too. No, the best one was the story he told about his dad, and man, I really don't want to spoil it. I'm kind of happy.
Just post it.
No, I'll send you the link for sure. But basically, what happened is like, after Jimmy O Yang got on Silicon Valley, became an actor and stuff. His dad wanted to do acting too. At first, he was dissing, Jimmy O Yang for doing, stand up and acting, and then basically, Jimmy O Yang was like, "Okay, you want to see how hard it is? You try." And then like he books like 6 out of 10 of his next auditions. So that was a really funny story. But I'll send you that link. And yeah, awesome. Got anything else?
I don't know, man. Just like, I hope that Live at the Bike is up and running soon. We get to see some really awesome new content, and hope you put together another like a Hollywood writers.
Oh well, yeah.
Live at the Bike game. That was a lot of fun to take part in, and I think.
Got any shout outs for your peoples?
Shout outs?
Yeah. Double F Steve Sung, once for the 50,000th time, but no.
Shout out to Steve Sung. He's definitely, like the most famous or successful UCSD Poker Society member. He's doing good things. He's doing big things. And I gotta say, like, I remember just he's like in another echelon, because I remember like this was a few years out of college, And every once in a while, I'll get a random phone call being like, "Hey, I just made the WPT final table. Come to Vegas and watch." And I remember one time, I think it was 2008. It was like the Doyle Brunson 5 Diving Classic, whatever, at Bellagio, WPT final table. Me and another poker buddy, we just like, on a moment's notice, just drove out to Vegas to go watch. I think he ended up getting like fourth place and like, I don't know, 300 grand, 400 grand, something like that. And then his buddy Chino Reem got first place for like over $1 million. And that night they're like, we're all going out clubbing. We all go to the bank, the club at Bellagio that night, and they get like, you know, they had collectively, him and the other poker buddies had just won, you know, like $2 million or what have you. And so of course they have like the best table right on the dance floor, and they're just popping bottles of Cristal or whatever it was, of Dom or whatever it was. But then the craziest thing, and this is such a poker player thing to do, like such a flex, was they got like thousands and thousands of dollars in singles, and we're making it rain in the club. And it's not a strip club where like you make it rain. This is just a regular nightclub.
Yeah.
And they're making it rain, and people just like lose their minds. I have a distinct memory of like girls of their you know, their
entourage groupings
of girls' breasts popping out of their dresses as they're you know, frantically grabbing these singles that are flying through the air. And I remember it's just like, man, you guys, they're living the poker dream. This is like the thing we like dreamed about in college, and now you're living it out. And that was, I don't know, I was in my mind, that's always like Steve Sugg, baller, living the dream, gotta love it. And I don't know, poker has given me so much, just not just monetarily, but just also added to my life in so many ways, and you know, created connections in screenwriting and stuff like that. And I don't know, people shouldn't overlook it. Like you'd be surprised how many times like poker has helped your life off the table.
Oh, me? I have like I've had like one time I went broke 11 years in. Everything else past that has been a massive positive. It was just like the going broke thing. I actually had to confront like my family issues, which the audience like kind of knows about. But other than that, I have nothing bad. That's why when people like have the haterish attitude, I just like don't even like, because if you start like justifying these things to them, that's partially, I mean, we know there's merit to poker. If they want to change their minds after enough events happen and they change their minds, it'll happen. If they're not going to want to change their minds, forget it. They're the ones actually missing out. I have no problems. Like I have multiple careers that, you know, spawned off poker, among other things going. Why should I, you know, feel bad about it? Screw it. Like, you know, they need to catch up to us, not the other way around. But there's no need to like force them to swallow the pill. So I'm just like, you know, they can do whatever. Like, I don't know. This is gonna get into a sore topic. Whatever. I don't even want to get to that point. Like, just like, no, it's just like some people have like, you know, thrown shade. I'm just like, all right, I'm producing this show. You know, I've had a good life with poker. It's still part of my advantage portfolio. Why should I care what they think? You know, they're not paying my bills.
Yeah.
You know, they're not. You know, like this is just one of the like. I didn't ever imagine doing a poker show. I'd like participating. In fact, like back in the day when I was grinding, I was like, dude, that's so stupid to like, you know, go on a poker show, right? Because you're revealing your thought process, and revealing, you know, strat. And then some people in the Hollywood business, they've known me for a long time. And then when I started doing Live the Bike, they just totally flipped their view of me. And just like, I just like, there's so many things that you just can't know until you do them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like,
again,
go ahead.
It's like it's like, I think to each their own. It's like if you're doing something you love, then who gives a shit what anyone thinks?
Exactly. I think that they shouldn't slander it, but if they don't like it, that's totally their business. You know, like I think we're of the view we're just like, hey, if you're being productive towards the world and you're holding your own, that's great. That's world needs that in every single industry, not just Hollywood and poker.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Who's like the dream guest, poker like celebrity guest you would want to talk to on the show? Like, is
You mean,
there?
po-
Yeah.
I have personal relations with like quite a few poker players, and I wouldn't say like dream. Like I had Barry Greenstein's, which we just made public. I didn't know Phil Hellmuth that well, but you know when I did the podcast with him, it turned out to be great. I I'm gonna have Prahlad Friedman on. Like he's one that's interesting because he had the biggest influence in my game like 15 years ago. I don't think there's any dream person, but I'm just like if it comes along, great. I would similarly think um it's live at the bike as a team getting to a certain echelon and people are just and you know this show getting to a certain echelon that people are like, hey, yeah, I'd love to do a podcast
But
with you.
do you have like a poker hero though? Like someone that you look up to as like, this is someone who just like I hope to emulate their success or mindset or anything like that?
I'm already friends with like them, and if/when they come on, like I'm happy to, but I'm not. I mean, they're friends of mine, so I don't want to be like, hey, come on, because we're friends. Like, so like I'm very public. Like Esfandiari and Phil Locke. Like back when I was like way worse, Esfandiari was the most terrifying person to play against. He just like seemed. I don't know if he really did. He just seemed like he always knew what I had. And I'm just like, I'm pretty motionless, and I take it quite serious. So I'm just like, how does he know? And then when you get more experience, you realize people starting out, they give off tells that they may not know. But yeah, no, I talk with Esfandiari from here from there. I would love to have him on the podcast as well, but like it's just
That's incredible that through the show and through Live at the Bike, you've had a chance to actually like interact and talk with these people that have really impacted you in that way. Like there's
I told him like Phil Locke's another one. He's good. He actually called me like a couple days ago, and it just like our relationships changed because they were already pretty established when I was coming up, and I played them, at Commerce and like probably back in the Bay Area, and Bellagio too. So like at that time, I was like the pot one, but they like Barry Greenstein, Hellmuth, which I don't know, who I don't know well, Phil Locke, Essenir, they've all been very, very cordial. Like they were of a higher, like, fame, celebrity echelon, and they've always been just like super nice to me.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. So like I said, Hellmuth, who I am the least familiar with, came on the podcast. He was super friendly. Like, we got along well. Like these other guys who I have a more personal relationship with, they could tell in the podcast. So I mean, I don't know. You're my dream guest.
Oh, you got the bar way too low, my friend.
No, you don't know that. That's the Asian modesty. No, in all seriousness, like this whole podcast isn't about like it's just more like who's on the show. Let's just get everybody on. Let's hear everyone's voice because the enemy is toxic people in the chat or viewers that just like you said, just like can't see the beauty of this game or just like the depths. It's like Garrett and Andy are kind of the flagship. You see them like crush souls, like play super well, carry themselves super well. But there's all these like stuff in between, all the stuff in between that is like admirable too. Like, yeah, I'm running the show. You did the Poker Society thing. It's just like these are all things that help contribute to poker as a whole. Like a lot of it's about depth, like famous movies or great movies. You remember certain lines that are just like, oh snap, but like, and then you can kind of remember the story, but how much effort was put in to like build that, like how much to get to that point. So I'm part of the building process now. Like I've the team knows, the Live with the Bike team knows I'm about depth. Like if these insane awesome hands come up with like Garrett, Andy, Oscar, Art, Dan, Zach, Nick Bertucci, that's great, but we're here for the long haul. And I think that's the attitude that I got this kind of watching Helmuth. Like I would say, like 15 years ago, I was kind of a hater too. I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? I've had a higher appreciation for one, his multi-table tournament game. Two, he's been in it. He's been in poker for how long? He's helping it stay alive. Like the interest.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you hear all this poker's dying, poker's dying. What the hell does Helmuth do? Just goes on the next show, you know, poker this, poker that. I have 15 bracelets. I'm the greatest. It doesn't matter. He's helping
Mm-hmm.
keep poker alive. And however long I'm active, I'm now, you know, taking his example. Somebody I used
Yeah.
to hate on. Not like super bad hate on, but just like, oh, what's this guy doing? He's just like blowing up
Sure.
on camera. You know, I played with him off camera too. And just like,
Mm-hmm.
there's just like some things that you just don't learn until I think you're older or you have higher responsibility because he just has more responsibility to the poker world than we do. Like
Oh, for sure.
he's like 15 bracelets or whatever and just like been on camera and just like been made fun of. Like one of the things that he semi joked about with me was that when he was on Live with the Bike, he's like, oh, you're going to show all the hands where I punted or I acted like a jerk. And I'm like, no, I'm like, we're going to choose whatever. But the thing is, we know this too from Hollywood. Like, there's a lot of editing that goes on. So a lot of stuff from High Stakes Poker, they had all this footage, and the editing manipulates what the audience sees. Helmuth is not nearly as bad as like people think. Like people like you know, is he going to survive in these like insane competitive cash games? Probably not. But you know, his
Yeah.
MTT track record speaks for himself.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't win 15 bracelets and not be, you know, a top player. Yeah, I mean, I admire the guy's play. I mean, he, like I said, like to be playing this long and winning at a high level consistently, he's definitely he's got it figured out. So I think, you know, he knows that he has this persona and he uses that to his advantage, and I think he enjoys the attention, but you can't deny his talent. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
His track record speaks for itself.
One person I would want on Live with the Bike, not even so much for his play, just so I could do a joke, is Doyle. I want Doyle Bruns on the show because, you know, the Rip Doyle joke, right?
You're gonna have to refresh me.
Okay, so like online poker, like people would just type Rip Doyle, because it's like as if he died, like actually died, and then people
just
would
a
Google
death
it.
hoax, just to get people.
Yeah, it's a death hoax. Then you Google it and you find out he's like not dead. So it's like an OG like joke, and then I think Weez and I mentioned just like, oh, Rip Doyle, no, he's Live with the Bike. So I'm terrible with these jokes, but
Get
I don't
him
know.
on.
Yeah,
I would love to see Doyle on Live with the Bike. Make that happen.
Johnny Chan just came on. Jamie Gold's been on recently. You know, Johnson's coming back. Like, I'm gonna reach out to all these guys and just like, the thing is, yeah, there's no like dream guess or whatever. It's just like this is a continuous story. It's like a TV show. You know, it's a continuous story, and we'll see where it goes. Like, let's see. There are some. I mean, there's just like some impossibilities that I would love to have on the show, but it's just not real. Like, I would love Dan Blazarian to be on Live. I'd love like Justin Bieber, or you know.
I don't see why.
Molly.
I don't see why you can't get Dan Blazarian on the show. I mean,
he just wouldn't. He wouldn't do it. It's like, it's not part of his brand. That's all. He has like, I don't know. Dan Bilzerian, if you're watching, I would love to have you on the show.
I think if you're gonna have him on the show, he's gonna have to fill out the rest of the table with like all the like 8 supermodels that he hangs out with consistently on Instagram. Just have the table be him and 8 supermodels, and that'll be something everyone will tune in to watch.
Dan Bilzerian, if you're listening, you can be on and have 8 supermodels. We will have minimal commentary and just like listen to you talk. That's out there. But like other players, like, you know, say Tobey Maguire or like Ben Affleck, I mean, it's not like impossible, but it's just like, you know, you if they come, great. But I'm not gonna like. I would love it, and I would court them if like it was even a remote possibility. But if people are into esports and gaming, like Tom Martell reached out to Brian Kibler, and I'm in contact with him, and would like to have him on the show for like a Hearthstone game and a Magic the Gathering game. And I played against Brian Kibler in like 4 different esports, and just like it's like it's just like you, it's great to see somebody have such a cool career like when they were young, and then so I just rambled. But yeah, we want to like Live at the Bike, just like most poker shows, or like Ash and Pokemon. You gotta catch them all.
Well, I look forward to seeing what you come up with in the future.
I will try. I have a lot of theme stuff going on, and of course, we're going to try to kick it up. And shout out to all the UCSD people again. Maria Ho from Pre Poker Days. Proud of you whenever you're listening, and everything. I don't know. Getting all sentimental with the show.
Go Tritons. Go UCSD
Go
Tritons.
Undefeated
football team.
That's
never
right.
Lost. Never lost. Never
guys.
Lost a game.
Yeah, Bruins ain't got nothing on the Tritons.
There you go.
All right. Thank you for your time, and definitely let us know when your poker pilot gets picked up, and we're gonna hype it up here.
Sounds good.
It's gonna be the next rounders.
I hope so.
You think I'm kidding? No, I'm not kidding.
Hey man, I hope so. That would be amazing. That's the dream. That's the dream right there. So,
you have any beefs from our quarantine games? Because you're always typing to me, just like.
I don't think I have any beefs. Like, it's just a good time on that. I mean, everyone there is just trying to. It just feels like you're playing with a bunch of like 13-year-olds making your mom jokes. Like, it's just so immature. It's all these comedy writers just trying to shit on each other. It's a great time. I mean, obviously, I wish it was live again, but
we're gonna get back in the mix. Yeah.
We just have to make do with these online home games for now. But
I told Jamie Ronheimer, I'm just like, don't ever show them what I had. Like, I'm just taking my hand histories and just like burning it, or else like they might kick my ass in the back alley.
I mean, I gotta say, you keep it lively. I can always count on you for action. I mean, you're not afraid to mix it up. I have stopped trying to auto steal your blind. I will definitely say that your defend frequency is higher than anyone else in that game.
So one of the things is like our generation, especially around the 2005 to 2010 era, and this is like when Jay Rosencrantz played on Live at the Bike. You see this from Garrett and Andy. We are fuck solvers, fuck GTO. Any 2 cards, any spot. Like, if you're in the spot, somehow you misclicked and wound up in the spot, you have to maneuver the best play to get the best result. So say it's like raise you 3-bet and I misclick cold call in the big blind. Oops, but now I have to like try to win, or try to have the best results possible. So that definitely, we see our own, when they come on the show. We're like, oh, I know which era you were from. the hybrid live and online, and then just like,
Yeah. I feel you. And I do feel like that's some like an adjustment of like whether playing GTO or playing exploitative is something like that comes with experience and knowing in what games to do that in. And I feel like in that game that we play in, like fuck GTO, like you definitely play exploitative every time. You made a good adjustment, and your results speak for themselves. So, there you go.
I didn't want to like. I have I recorded like several online, like 1-hour online sessions and some tournaments, and they're the livethebike.com archives. I never ever wanted to show those. I would leave it to my former opponents to know, but whatever, cat's out of the bag, and whatever. It's a different life now. All right. Well, again, thank you for having me, or thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Glad to do it. Good chat.
Good chat, and take it easy. Until next time on Live at the Bike or in the home game.
Yeah, sounds good, man. See you around.
Later.
Peace.